Jack Miller looked out the viewport as the human shuttle approached the massive Vexorian space station. His heart beat fast in his chest. After 6 weeks of space travel, they had finally arrived. He straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and checked his appearance one last time. "Nervous?" asked Lily Peterson, the lead ambassador from Earth. "A little," Jack admitted. "It's not every day you meet aliens for the first time." Lily smiled. "Just remember your training. The Vexorians contacted us, so they must want peaceful relations." The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Jack took a deep breath as the airlock cycled. This was it, humanity's first official meeting with the Vexorian Empire. When the doors opened, Jack was hit with strange smells, like cinnamon and something metallic. 4 tall figures waited for them. Jack tried not to stare, but it was hard. The Vexorians looked almost human, but their skin had a blue-green shine that changed color slightly when they moved. Their eyes were large and completely black, with no whites at all. Most striking was that all 4 Vexorians were female, each standing over 6 feet tall with strong athletic builds. Jack had been briefed that Vexorian society was matriarchal, but seeing it in person made it real. "Welcome to Vexoria Station," said the tallest one in perfect English. "I am Kelna, first assistant to the High Matriarch. We are pleased to receive Earth's representatives." Lily stepped forward and bowed exactly as they had practiced. "Thank you for your welcome. We bring greetings from Earth and hope for friendship between our worlds." The Vexorians led them through wide hallways with high ceilings. Jack noticed smaller male Vexorians working inside passages. None looked up as they passed. The males were at least a foot shorter than the females, with slimmer builds and duller skin colors. They entered a massive chamber with a throne-like chair at one end. Seated there was an impressive female Vexorian wearing elaborate clothing with metal pieces that caught the light. Her skin had a deeper blue tone than the others, marking her as older and more powerful. "High Matriarch Kilva," announced Kelna with a deep bow. The Earth delegation bowed low as instructed. Jack felt the weight of the moment. This meeting would shape human-Vexorian relations for generations. As they straightened, Jack noticed a younger female Vexorian standing to the right of the throne. She was watching him with open curiosity. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Jack quickly looked away, remembering the cultural briefing about not making direct eye contact with high-ranking Vexorians. "Earth humans," the High Matriarch spoke, her voice deep and commanding. "Your journey to our territory pleases us. We have much to discuss about trade and knowledge exchange." As Lily began the formal greetings, Jack felt the young female's eyes still on him. He risked another glance. She was beautiful in an alien way, with high cheekbones and skin that shifted between teal and violet when she moved. She didn't look away when he caught her staring. The diplomatic formalities continued for almost an hour. Jack stood respectfully, speaking only when directly addressed by Lily. The meeting seemed to be going well. Later, at the reception, Jack was sampling strange but delicious Vexorian food when someone approached from behind. "You are different from our males," said a musical voice. Jack turned to find the young female from the throne room standing very close to him. Up close, he could see patterns in her skin that looked like faint stars. "I'm Zara, daughter of High Matriarch Kilva," she said. "And you are called Jack Miller." "Yes," he replied, surprised she knew his name. "It's an honor to meet you." "Our species look similar, yet very different," she continued, studying him openly. "Your males stand tall like our females. Interesting." Jack wasn't sure how to respond. The briefing hadn't covered one-on-one conversations with the royal family. "What is Earth like?" Zara asked, stepping even closer. Before Jack could answer, High Matriarch Kilva called for attention from across the room. Everyone fell silent immediately. "We welcome our visitors from Earth," she announced. "Tomorrow we begin formal discussions." Jack, believing the formalities were over, turned to Zara to answer her question about Earth. "Our world has." The room went completely silent. Every Vexorian froze, staring at him with shock. Jack realized with horror that the High Matriarch hadn't finished speaking. He had just committed a terrible mistake. Zara's eyes widened. "No one speaks when the High Matriarch addresses the gathering," she whispered. "No one." The High Matriarch's black eyes fixed on Jack, and her skin darkened to a stormy purple. "This human," she said coldly, "has much to learn about respect." The room turned cold. Jack felt all eyes on him. Guards with long staffs moved to surround him. "Stop." Lily Peterson stepped forward, her face pale. "Please, High Matriarch, our diplomat meant no offense. On Earth, it is normal to speak freely." The High Matriarch raised one long-fingered hand. The guards stopped but kept their staffs pointed at Jack. "Ignorance does not excuse breaking our most sacred laws," she said. "The punishment for interrupting the High Matriarch has been the same for 10,000 years." Jack's mouth went dry. He tried to speak, but no words came out. An older Vexorian female in formal robes stepped forward. "According to our laws, the penalty is death." Whispers spread through the room. The human delegation looked horrified. Jack felt his legs grow weak. However, the robed Vexorian continued. "There is another way in our ancient traditions. If a noble-born female claims responsibility for the offender, she may take him as her husband. His shame becomes her responsibility." Ambassador Peterson turned to Jack, her expression grim. "We need to contact Earth immediately for guidance. I claim him." The words silenced the room. Zara, daughter of the High Matriarch, stepped forward. Her skin rippled with blues and purples. "Daughter." The High Matriarch's voice held surprise. "You wish to claim responsibility for this human?" "I do, Mother," Zara said. She walked around Jack, studying him. "Humans are new to our ways. This one interests me. I would take him as husband rather than see him die for a mistake." Jack looked at Lily, who shook her head slightly, warning him to stay quiet. "You understand what you ask." The High Matriarch's skin darkened. "To marry outside our species has never been done. You would be the first." "I understand, Mother," Zara said. "Perhaps it will strengthen our new alliance with Earth." The High Matriarch was silent for a long moment. The room held its breath. "Very well," she finally said. "The human may live, but only as your husband, bound by all our marriage laws." The tension in the room eased slightly. Jack didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. Marriage to an alien. What did that even mean? Later, in the private quarters given to the Earth delegation, Lily paced back and forth. "This is a diplomatic nightmare," she said. "We can't let them execute you, but we also can't agree to a forced marriage without understanding what it means." "What choice do I have?" Jack asked. His hands still shook. "It's marriage or death." Sam Wright, the cultural specialist, entered the room with a tablet. "I've been researching Vexorian marriage customs from the information they shared earlier." His face was grim. "Jack, you need to know what you're getting into." He placed the tablet on the table. On it were images of Vexorian males kneeling before their wives, wearing collar-like devices. "Vexorian marriages are not partnerships like on Earth," Sam explained. "Males have few rights. They are considered property of their wives." Jack felt sick. "So I'd be a slave?" "Not exactly, but close," Sam said. "Males are protected and cared for, but they must obey their wives in all things." A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Zara, now dressed in simpler clothes. Two guards waited in the hallway behind her. "May I speak with Jack Miller?" she asked. Lily nodded reluctantly. Zara entered, and the door closed. "You saved my life," Jack said. "Thank you." Zara tilted her head. "I did not do it only to save you. I am curious about humans. Our species have much to learn from each other." "Your marriage customs," Jack began carefully. "They're very different from ours." "Yes," Zara agreed. "But perhaps we can find a middle path. I do not wish for a traditional husband who only obeys. That would teach me nothing about humans. Jack felt a small spark of hope. You'd be willing to adapt your customs. Within limits, she said. Publicly, you must follow our ways or it will shame me. Privately, we can establish our own rules. She paused. The alternative is death. My mother will not change her mind about that. Jack took a deep breath. Living or dying. Becoming an alien's husband or ending Earth's first contact in disaster. I need time to think, he said. You have until tomorrow morning, Zora replied. Then you must decide. Marry or die. Jack barely slept that night. He tossed and turned, his mind racing between terrible options. Marriage to an alien or death? What kind of choice was that? Morning came too soon. Jack showered and dressed in his diplomatic uniform, perhaps for the last time. When he entered the common area, Ambassador Peterson and the rest of the team waited for him. Earth Command sent their response. Lily said, her face grave. They can't risk war with the Vexorians by demanding your release. But they won't order you to accept marriage either. The choice must be yours. Some choice, Jack muttered. Sam Wright handed him a datapad. I gathered more information about Vexorian marriages. It's not as bad as I first thought. Jack scrolled through the information. Vexorian males were not exactly slaves, but they had few rights. They could own no property. They could not travel without permission. They could not speak to females of higher rank than their wife without being spoken to first. Their society is completely built around female dominance, Sam explained. It's been this way for thousands of years. Males are considered too emotional and impulsive to make important decisions. That's the opposite of old Earth stereotypes, Jack said with a bitter laugh. There's more, Sam continued. Vexorian females often take multiple husbands. If you marry Zora, you might not be her only husband. Jack felt a new wave of dread. This keeps getting worse. A chime sounded. A male Vexorian servant entered and bowed low. The daughter of the High Matriarch requests the human's presence, he said without looking up. Jack looked at his team. Lily stepped forward and hugged him. Whatever you decide, we support you, she said. If you choose marriage, we'll try to negotiate regular contact with Earth. Jack nodded and followed the servant. They walked through quiet hallways to a garden area filled with strange blue and purple plants. Zara waited there, dressed in elaborate clothes with shimmering metal accents. Have you decided? She asked when they were alone. I have questions first, Jack said. He was proud that his voice didn't shake. If I marry you, what exactly will my life be like? Will I ever see Earth again? Will I have any freedom at all? Zara's skin rippled with thoughtful colors. You would be the first human husband in our history. Many eyes would watch us. Publicly, you would need to follow our traditions. She paused. But I am not like most Vexorian females. I seek knowledge, not just obedience. She walked to a flower that closed when she touched it. I have been studying Earth's marriage customs. They are strange to me. The idea of equality between partners seems inefficient. Yet humans have achieved much with this system. She turned back to him. I cannot promise you complete freedom, but I can promise to treat you with respect and to listen to your thoughts. In private, we could speak as equals. Jack considered her words. And what about other husbands? I was told Vexorian females often have multiple husbands. That is true for many, she acknowledged. I have not taken any husbands yet, though many have been offered to me. If I did take others, you would be first husband with higher status. Jack walked to the edge of the garden, looking out at the stars. He thought of Earth, so far away. He thought of his family, who might never see him again. But he also thought of death, cold and final. Why did you really claim me? He asked suddenly. You could have any Vexorian male. Why risk taking the human husband? Zora moved closer. Our people will be working together for generations to come. I believe understanding humans is important for our future. And her skin flushed a softer blue. There is something about you that interests me. You are different from Vexorian males. You stand tall. You look directly at me when you speak. Jack took a deep breath. Life or death. Freedom or captivity. Earth or Vexoria. I've made my decision, he said. I accept your offer of marriage, Jack said. The words felt strange in his mouth. Zara's skin brightened with blue patterns. You have made a wise choice, Jack Miller of Earth. That afternoon, Jack was taken to prepare for the ceremony. 2 male Vexorian servants helped him bathe in scented water and dressed him in strange clothes. The outfit was made of a light, flowing material in deep blues and purples, with metal pieces that caught the light. The ceremony will begin at sunset, one servant explained while painting patterns on Jack's hands. It is a great honor. The daughter of the High Matriarch has never taken a husband before. What exactly happens in the ceremony? Jack asked. No one had told him what to expect. You will be presented to the High Matriarch. You will perform the 7 steps of devotion. Then the binding will be sealed. The 7 steps of devotion. Jack felt panic rising. What are those? The servant looked surprised. No one has taught you. You must walk 7 times around the sacred pool, reciting the vows at each turn. What vows? Jack's voice rose. I don't know any vows. The servant looked alarmed. This is most irregular. I will fetch the marriage guide. Left alone, Jack paced the room, his heart pounding. What had he gotten himself into? He was about to marry an alien woman in a ceremony he knew nothing about. The door opened, and Sam Wright hurried in, carrying a datapad. Jack, I've been looking everywhere for you. The Vexorians finally shared the marriage ritual details with us. He handed Jack the pad. You need to memorize these vows. The ceremony starts in an hour. Jack quickly read through the vows. Most were about obedience and service. The 7th and final vow troubled him most. I surrender my will to yours, my body to your keeping, my mind to your guidance. I can't say this, Jack said, his face hot. This is total submission. Sam looked nervous. You have to. The whole diplomatic mission depends on it. Just say the words and think of Earth. Before Jack could argue more, servants returned to escort him to the ceremony. The great hall was filled with Vexorians. Females in elaborate clothes stood on raised platforms, while males sat on cushions below them. The human delegation stood awkwardly to one side, looking out of place. In the center of the hall was a circular pool filled with glowing blue liquid. High Matriarch Kilva sat on her throne overlooking it. A bell rang, and everyone fell silent. Zara entered, wearing a stunning outfit that seemed to change colors as she moved. Her skin glowed with complex patterns. Jack was led to the edge of the pool. Zara approached from the opposite side. A Vexorian female in ceremonial robes stood between them. Today we witness the binding of Zara, daughter of High Matriarch Kilva, to Jack Miller of Earth, she announced. Let the 7 steps begin. Jack began walking around the pool. Zara walked on the opposite side, so they circled each other. At the first position, Jack recited the first vow. I honor your household as my own. They continued walking. Jack recited the second vow. I pledge to bring no shame upon your name. With each vow, Jack felt the weight of his decision. The 5th and 6th vows were about serving Zara's needs before his own. Then came the 7th position. Jack hesitated. The crowd waited. He looked across the pool at Zara, who watched him intensely. Taking a deep breath, Jack changed the words slightly. I offer my will alongside yours, my body as your companion, my mind as your partner. A murmur ran through the crowd. Jack had altered the sacred vow. The High Matriarch's skin darkened dangerously. But Zara's reaction surprised everyone. Her skin flashed with bright patterns, showing pleasure. I accept your offering, she said clearly. The official looked confused but continued. The vows are exchanged. Now for the binding. Zara and Jack were led to stand before the High Matriarch. She rose from her throne and placed her hands on their heads. "What is joined today shall not be broken," she said. "This human is now bound to my daughter's house. His actions reflect upon her honor." She looked directly at Jack, her black eyes unreadable. "Remember that, human. Your fate is now in my daughter's hands." After the ceremony, there was a large feast. Jack sat beside Zara at a high table. Many Vexorians came to look at the strange human who had married into the royal family. "They are curious about you," Zara explained as she placed food on Jack's plate. "No one has ever seen a human husband before." Jack nodded politely as another noble female approached. Her skin was a dark purple, and she looked at Jack with open dislike. "My congratulations, Zora," she said. "What an unusual pet you have chosen." Jack felt his face grow hot, but he remained silent. "Jack is not a pet, Nix," Zara replied coolly. "He is my husband and a diplomat from Earth." Nix laughed. "A husband who stands as tall as a female. How amusing. Does he know his place?" Before Zara could answer, Jack spoke. "I'm still learning Vexorian customs, but on Earth, we believe in treating everyone with respect." Nix's skin darkened with anger. "It speaks without permission. You must train it better, Zara." "Jack is free to speak to me anytime," Zara said firmly. "Our marriage will follow some new traditions." Nix moved away, clearly displeased. Jack gave Zara a grateful look. "That was Nix, my cousin," Zara explained. "She leads the traditional faction that opposed contact with Earth. Be careful around her." The next morning, Jack moved his few belongings into Zora's quarters. The rooms were large and beautiful, with strange plants and artwork. A smaller room connected to hers had been prepared for him. "These will be your quarters," Zora said. "You may arrange them as you wish." Jack was surprised. "I expected something less private." "You need your own space," she said. "I have studied humans. You value personal space more than Vexorians do." Over the next few weeks, Jack learned to navigate his new life. Each morning, he attended diplomatic meetings with the Earth team. In the afternoons, he studied Vexorian language and customs. Evenings were spent with Zora, teaching her about Earth. One evening, while they were reviewing Earth history, Jack heard shouting in the hallway. They stepped out to see a Vexorian male being roughly pushed by a female noble. "Worthless male," the noble shouted. "You spilled nectar on my new clothes." The male cowered on the floor. "Forgive me, Lady Mira. It was an accident." Lady Mira raised her hand to strike him. Without thinking, Jack stepped forward. "Stop," he said loudly. Everyone froze. Lady Mira turned to Jack, her skin dark with rage. "How dare you command me, human?" she hissed. Jack stood his ground. "On Earth, we don't hit people for accidents." "This is not Earth," Lady Mira said. "And you forget your place." Zora moved to Jack's side. "My husband spoke hastily, Lady Mira, but he is right. Physical punishment for such a small offense is excessive." Several other nobles had gathered to watch. Jack could see the surprise on their faces. No one had expected Zora to support him against another noble. Lady Mira looked between them, then stepped back. "Very well. For you, Zora." She walked away, taking her servant with her. Later, in their quarters, Zora paced back and forth. "You must be more careful, Jack. Challenging a noble publicly is dangerous." "I couldn't watch her hit him for an accident," Jack said. "It wasn't right." Zora stopped pacing. "Your human values are interesting, but they conflict with our ways." "Are all Vexorian males treated that poorly?" Jack asked. "Not all," Zora said, "but many nobles of the older generation are harsh. Things are slowly changing." She sat beside Jack. "What you did today was brave but foolish. Yet I find I admired your courage." Her skin glowed with soft, blue patterns. "Perhaps there is wisdom in some human ways." Jack smiled. For the first time since coming to Vexoria, he felt he had made a small difference. Maybe this strange marriage could lead to change. Tell me more about Earth relationships, Zara said, moving closer. How do human partners treat each other? As Jack began to explain, he realized that Zara was truly interested. Perhaps there was hope for understanding between their worlds after all. 3 months passed. Jack adjusted to his new life better than he expected. The Earth delegation continued their diplomatic work, and Jack served as a bridge between humans and Vexorians. His unique position as Zara's husband gave him access to parts of Vexorian society other humans never saw. One morning, Jack was reading reports in his quarters when Zara entered, her skin pulsing with dark colors that showed worry. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting aside his datapad. Zara checked that they were alone. "I overheard something disturbing. Nyx and her supporters are planning something against the Earth delegation." Jack stood up quickly. "What kind of plan? Are my people in danger?" "I don't know the details yet," Zara said. "But Nyx has always believed contact with humans would weaken our traditions. She thinks your kind is dangerous." Jack paced the room. "We need to warn Ambassador Peterson." "Not yet," Zara cautioned. "We need proof first. Accusations against a noble without evidence would only make things worse." Jack nodded reluctantly. "So what do we do?" "We gather information," Zara said. "I trust you, Jack. More than I expected to when we married." Her skin showed flashes of soft blue. "Will you help me?" "Of course," Jack said. "But why do you trust me? I'm still learning your ways." Zara moved closer. "Because you are different. You care about fairness, even for those with less power. It is not a common trait among Vexorians." Over the next few days, they worked together secretly. Zara used her position to access secure areas, while Jack listened to conversations other Vexorians had around him. Many still treated him as if he couldn't understand their language or couldn't think for himself. One evening, Jack was waiting in a side corridor for Zara when he overheard Nyx speaking with another noble. "The device is ready," Nyx said quietly. "When the humans use their communication system tomorrow, it will copy all their data and send it to us. Then we will know their true plans." "And if they discover it?" the other noble asked. "We will claim it was a security measure," Nyx replied. "The High Matriarch will believe us over the humans." Jack's heart raced. This was the proof they needed. He waited until they left, then hurried to find Zara. When he told her what he had heard, her skin darkened with anger. "This is worse than I feared. Stealing information is a serious offense. If Earth discovered it, they might break off relations with us." "We need to tell my team immediately," Jack insisted. Zara shook her head. "We must be careful. Nyx has many supporters among the royal guards. Let me speak to my mother first." "Can we trust the High Matriarch?" Jack asked. "She's never seemed to like humans much." "My mother values order above all," Zara said. "She will not allow Nyx to threaten our new alliance, even if she has doubts about humans." They arranged to meet with the High Matriarch privately. As they walked to her chambers, Jack felt nervous. He had rarely spoken directly to Kilva since his wedding. The High Matriarch received them in her private study. Her black eyes watched Jack carefully. "My daughter says you have discovered something important, human," she said. Jack bowed respectfully, then explained what he had overheard. The High Matriarch listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. "Serious accusations against a noble of royal blood," she finally said. "What proof do you have beyond your words?" "I can show you where the device must be," Jack offered. "And Zara can confirm that Nyx has been meeting secretly with others who oppose the Earth Alliance." The High Matriarch looked at her daughter. "You support this human's claims?" "I do, Mother," Zara said firmly. "Jack has proven himself trustworthy. And he cares about both our peoples." The High Matriarch's skin showed subtle patterns that Jack couldn't read. "Very well. We will investigate quietly. If Nyx has truly planned this, she will face consequences." As they left the meeting, Jack felt relieved but uneasy. "Do you think she believed us?" "Yes," Zara said. But Nyx is powerful and cunning. We must be careful. Little did they know that Nyx already suspected they were onto her plan, and she was preparing something much more dangerous. The next morning, Jack and Zara led a small team of trusted guards to the Earth delegation's communication room. Hidden behind a wall panel, they found a small device attached to the human equipment. "This is it," Jack said. "Just like Nyx described. It would have copied all our data." The head guard carefully removed the device. "We will take this to the High Matriarch as evidence." Later that day, all the royal family and high nobles gathered in the Great Hall. The High Matriarch sat on her throne, her face serious. Jack stood beside Zara, feeling the tension in the room. "I have called this meeting because of a serious matter," the High Matriarch announced. A device was found in the Earth delegation's quarters, designed to steal their information. Whispers spread through the crowd. The High Matriarch held up her hand for silence. "This action threatens our alliance with Earth. I have evidence that points to members of our own royal family." All eyes turned to Nyx, who stood calmly at the front of the crowd. Her skin showed no signs of worry. "What evidence?" Nyx asked. "I see only the word of a human male who has no standing in our society." "The device was found exactly where Jack Miller said it would be," the High Matriarch replied. Nyx smiled, perhaps because he put it there himself. Humans are known for their tricks. They may be planning to blame us for their own spying. Several nobles nodded in agreement. Jack felt anger rising in his chest, but stayed silent. This was not the time to speak out. "Jack has proven his loyalty," Zara said firmly. "He has brought honor to my house." Nyx laughed. "Honor? He has brought Earth ideas that threaten our traditions, and now you take his side against your own kind." The High Matriarch raised her hand again. "Enough. The evidence will be examined carefully before." Suddenly, the lights went out. The Great Hall plunged into darkness. Jack heard shouts and the sound of fighting. He felt someone grab his arm. "This way," Zara whispered, pulling him toward a side door. Before they could reach it, the lights came back on. Jack saw Nyx standing on the platform beside the High Matriarch's throne. She held a weapon pointed at Kilova. "The time for talk is over," Nyx announced. "Contact with humans has weakened us. Our traditions are being questioned. Even the daughter of the High Matriarch has fallen under their spell." Guards loyal to Nyx surrounded the platform. Other guards seemed confused, not sure what to do. "This is treason," the High Matriarch said calmly, though her skin pulsed with angry colors. "It is salvation," Nyx replied. "I will lead our people back to the true ways, starting with removing all humans from our world." She turned to her guards. "Capture the Earth delegation. They will be sent away immediately." Jack saw Ambassador Peterson and the other humans being surrounded by guards. He had to do something. "Wait," he called out, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him. "If you harm the Earth delegation, our planet will see it as an act of war. Is that what you want? War between our worlds?" Nyx pointed her weapon at Jack. "Your words mean nothing here, human." "He speaks truth," Zora said, moving to stand beside Jack. "Earth has many ships, many weapons. They would come for their people." Nyx laughed. "Let them try. Our defenses are strong." "Are they strong enough to stop thousands of ships?" Jack asked. "Earth has prepared for this possibility. If the delegation doesn't report back on schedule, ships will come." This was a bluff, but Jack hoped Nyx wouldn't know that. He saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Suddenly, Nyx's weapon turned toward Zora. "Then we will send them back with a message. Earth must leave us alone forever." Jack didn't think. He moved instinctively, pushing Zara aside as Nyx fired. Pain exploded in his shoulder. He fell to the floor, hearing shouts and more weapons fire. Through the haze of pain, he saw the High Matriarch's guards finally moving, surrounding Nyx and her supporters. Zara kneeled beside him, her skin flashing with worry patterns. "Jack, why did you do that?" she asked, pressing her hand against his wound. couldn't let her hurt you, Jack said weakly. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Zora's face, her black eyes filled with an emotion he had never seen in a Vexorian before. Jack woke up slowly. His shoulder throbbed with pain. He was lying in a bed in what looked like a medical room. Bright lights hurt his eyes. "He's awake," said a familiar voice. Jack turned his head to see Ambassador Peterson sitting beside his bed. She looked tired but relieved. "What happened?" Jack asked, his voice rough. "You've been unconscious for 3 days," Lily said. "The Vexorian doctors saved your life. Nyx's weapon did a lot of damage." Jack tried to sit up but fell back, wincing. "Nyx, the coup failed," Lily said with a smile. "After you were shot, the High Matriarch's guards took control. Nyx and her supporters have been arrested." "And Zara?" Jack asked. "Is she all right?" Before Lily could answer, the door opened. Zara entered, her skin glowing with bright patterns. When she saw Jack awake, she rushed to his side. "Jack," she said, taking his hand, "you're finally awake." Jack was surprised by her open display of emotion. Vexorians usually kept their feelings controlled in public. "I'm okay," he assured her, "just sore." Lily stood up. "I'll give you two some time alone. The medical team said you should recover fully, Jack. We've been in contact with Earth. Everyone knows what you did." After she left, Zara sat on the edge of Jack's bed. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. "No Vexorian male would have done that." "I didn't think," Jack admitted. "I just couldn't let you get hurt." "My mother wants to speak with you when you're well enough," Zara said. "Your actions have changed many minds about humans." Over the next week, Jack slowly recovered. He learned that Nyx's failed coup had actually improved relations between Earth and Vexoria. The High Matriarch now saw humans as valuable allies. When Jack was finally able to walk again, a formal ceremony was held in the Great Hall. The High Matriarch called him forward to stand before her throne. "Jack Miller of Earth," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "You have shown courage beyond what we expected from your kind. You saved my daughter's life at risk of your own." Jack bowed respectfully. "I did what anyone would do for someone they care about." The High Matriarch's skin showed patterns of approval. Perhaps humans and Vexorians are not so different after all. She rose from her throne. "I have been reconsidering some of our oldest traditions. Our treatment of males has remained unchanged for thousands of years. Perhaps it is time for change." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The High Matriarch continued. "I propose new laws that would grant more rights to males, both Vexorian and human. And I propose that mixed marriages like my daughter's should be recognized as equal partnerships." Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. This was more than he ever expected. Later, in their private quarters, Zara explained more. "My mother sees the value in human ways now," she said. "The change will be slow, but it has begun." "What does this mean for us?" Jack asked. Zara took his hands in hers. "It means you have a choice now. Your original agreement was made under threat of death. You are free to return to Earth if you wish." Jack looked at her skin, now pulsing with colors that showed anxiety. She was worried about his answer. "And if I want to stay?" he asked. "Then we would continue as true partners," she said. "I have learned much from you, Jack. I no longer wish for a traditional Vexorian marriage." Jack thought about Earth, his home planet. He missed it. But he also thought about what he had found here: purpose, respect, and something he hadn't expected: love for this alien woman who had changed as much as he had. "I want to stay," he said. "But I also want to help build connections between our worlds. Maybe we could serve as ambassadors together." Zara's skin lit up with joy. "That would be perfect. We can show both our peoples how humans and Vexorians can work together as equals." Jack pulled her close, no longer worried about Vexorian customs. "From marry or die to changing an entire society," he said with a smile. "Not bad for a diplomatic mission that started with a cultural mistake." Zara laughed, a sound Jack had rarely heard from her before. Perhaps some mistakes lead to better things than we could have planned. As they looked out at the stars, Jack knew their journey was just beginning. Two different species learning to understand each other, one relationship at a time.